Hello, everybody. Welcome to a truly monumental occasion, my first video on this channel. This is a very new thing for me. I'm not exactly used to doing voiceovers for things, and I'm certainly not the best video editor, so forgive my lack of skill in that department. But to inaugurate my shift from posting a million Instagram stories at a time on a given subject to making a single video on it, I thought, why not do a little introductory video to start things off? I want this channel to be mainly focused on paleoanthropology, because that's where my interests really lie. So that means anything within paleontology, genomics, evolutionary biology, or primatology that has any bearing on human evolution is ideally going to form the core of the content here. But, that being said, I'm probably just going to talk about whatever I feel like talking about. I'll try to stay mostly within the general umbrella of evolutionary biology or ecology. Like, for example, when I eventually finish the Ear Evolution project, I'll probably turn it into a video. But I'm confident I will stray from that from time to time and talk about something cool that's completely unrelated. I want to do a brief series on the basic background knowledge you need to have to understand what I'm talking about. So that's going to be the basics of how evolution works, how we know it works, a little bit of geology, the process of fossilization, sedimentation, etc., various dating methods, maybe some background on DNA and heritability, some basic genomics, probably a video on phylogeny, just general kind of stuff like that. Important information that you have to have if you want to be able to fully get what's going on in the videos that are about more random niche topics. And I want to have a playlist that is just like the general basics so that it can be quickly referenced if something comes up in a topic that you don't know about. I'm not sure what order I'm going to do that in or how long it will take. Probably a long time. And I'm sure I'll be doing it concurrently with those more niche videos about specific subjects. So don't expect it to be a super organized process. I want to also just keep doing the same thing I have been doing and cover important papers as they come out and follow developments in the field. But I'm sure I'll be inconsistent with that. You know, I've got school and other things to focus on as well. I guess I should probably explain the channel name while I'm here, Homo Antiquus. So this name has a really interesting history. Homo Antiquus was a taxon that was first proposed in 1908 by a German anthropologist named Paul Adloff, and it was for the Krapina neanderthal fossils from Croatia. This was during a period of time where basically every new fossil discovered was given its own species, or even its own genus name sometimes. This was partially because, you know, it was 1908. Long-distance communication was challenging, and it's not like today where every specimen has an easily accessible description online with 3D models and such. But it was also partially just the tradition in the field. Everybody wanted to name their own species of human because that's just a cool thing to have done. It was a hardcore splitter's paradise. But Homo Antiquus did not stick for the Krapina material, and it was eventually considered a junior synonym of Homo neanderthalensis. But then there was this weird attempt in 1984 by this guy Walter Ferguson. He was a relatively prolific painter and paleoartist. I believe he's dead now, but he wanted to place a lot of the specimens of Australopithecus afarensis from Hadar in Ethiopia, which at that point were the only specimens assigned to that species, into a taxon also called Homo Antiquus, with AL 288-1, better known as Lucy, as the type specimen. Ferguson was familiar with Adloff's work. There's this whole weird little story about his proposal for a priority with the name to the ICZN. There's a bunch of weird stuff, faulty citations, and it's a whole thing. And when you get into the rules of taxonomic nomenclature, things get kind of strange kind of quick. But that's besides the point. You got to remember, Australopithecus afarensis was only officially described, 6 years prior to this? 1978? So what Ferguson was attempting to disrupt wasn't quite as set in stone as we think of it today. I mean, today, Lucy is the definitive Australopithecus afarensis specimen, and by far the most famous Australopithecus material ever found. So this seems completely ridiculous now, but back then it might have felt more reasonable. Ferguson adopted Homo Antiquus as an attempted refutation of Australopithecus afarensis, claiming, on the basis of dentition and mandibular morphology mostly, that some of the Hadar fossils should be considered transitional between Australopithecus africanus and Homo habilis, and therefore placed in his new species, Homo antiquus. The rest of the Hadar assemblage he considered to be a mix of early pongid and hominid fossils, which in those days meant different things. Pongid meant all great apes excluding humans, which were thought by many to form their own monophyletic group, while hominid specifically referred to only humans and their ancestors, right? Today we say Hominidae refers to all of the great apes, the Asian apes and the African apes, and we split it up a little differently. Asian apes get their own subfamilies. That's just orangutans in the family Ponginae, subfamily Ponginae, and the African apes, including us, fall into the subfamily Homininae. But specifically, Ferguson thought that some of the material, his pongid material, as he was calling it, represented Ramapithecus, which has its own unique and fascinating story as a taxonomic category and is now considered a synonym for Shivapithecus. And this is a slightly absurd assessment when you look at the actual morphology, and it didn't ever gain much traction. It's now a completely defunct taxon, right? No one uses Homo antiquus anymore, but the name itself struck me. It has a certain depth to it, right? It conjures up images of ancient hominins, primeval man. It has a sense of importance to it, and I just like it. So, despite it being a completely defunct name taxonomically, I decided to adopt it for the name of the channel. So yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.